Of June 2025, I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable. Welcome to part two in relation to videos talking about emails sent to Inspector Marcus Mccorkell of Dorset Police, column number 360, supposedly an inspector. And we were looking at the emails, and there was two of them. This is one that was sent on the 13th, yesterday at 22:04. Another one that I sent this morning to Inspector Mccorkell, and that was at 9:45 this morning. And we were looking at a document that I attached to this email. And here's the document. We were looking at the assisted dying bill and how this relates to the international government fraud, and they're trying to get this through Parliament at the moment, which relates to everything that I'm exposing and the threat to humanity from our international governments. We talked about the intervention and how it tied in through to that. We looked at started to look at the chain of events that happened in Wuhan. Okay, and we looked at an article here, BBC article from July 2019, that states that there was a protest in Wuhan. You can see the date here, July 2019, in relation to incinerators that were being, or an incinerator plant that was being put in place in Wuhan. And you can go and look at the full article if you just go and search protests of incinerators in Wuhan. So in August 2019, the following month, cell towers were erected in Wuhan. The link to the article regarding cell towers is below. Note The Guardian is significantly linked to the satanic agenda and the fraud. So downplay the threat and mention ICNIRP. Now, ICNIRP is an organisation that actually is supposed to regulate and monitor the threat from mobile communication systems, but they are part of the fraud. That is confirmed. They link back to exactly the same criminal organisations. But this is the article anyway, just to confirm. Just go back to that. And this was from, the article was from April 2020, but you can see here that, and you can slow this down or go and look at it yourself. It downplays the threat of the directed energy from the cell towers, but it does confirm in here somewhere, if I can find it, there you go, in the middle here, that in August 2019, a month later, okay, that cell towers were erected at Wuhan. Reading on, the supposed outbreak occurred in December 2019, so not long afterwards. And this is also when the Earthshot Prize, linking directly with the Royal Foundation for the Prince and Princess of Wales that we've already mentioned in part one, which is an incredibly important company where all areas of the fraud, including connections to international child trafficking, etc., all go to that document. So this was conceived by Prince William, the Earthshot Prize, in December 2019, the same year as the outbreak. This relates to the climate change agenda and a possibly falsified threat from solar events to conceal the real threat of the cell towers and the Hadron Colliders. This is supported by recent claims of a current and upcoming peak in solar activity by NASA, one letter short of Satan, and NOAA, which was an organisation that goes right back to the beginning of the 1800s, okay, which is around the same time that Switzerland became neutral, which again is all relevant, and that is all going to be put into my full chronological evidential research document. Reading on, since publicly exposing this possible deception, the threat appears to have reduced, and things are constantly changing as the evidence is released. This supports my claims. And there's a couple of articles in relation to NASA and NOAA and the solar cycle. I'm not going to go into them, but this document is being circulated. The apocalyptic deception is now blatant and likely to try and maintain control over a vast amount of people involved in the fraud and have been promised salvation from an event in a tunnel system. This was particularly evident when Catherine Fitz, a former White House employee under the Bush administration, claimed that 21 trillion had been defrauded from the masses for an underground doomsday city for the rich and famous. So they practically confirmed the crimes against humanity in relation to the financial aspect. But I suspect a lot of what else they're saying is a deception against everybody to control them. Reading on, it says, this was as I was releasing my evidence of a falsified doomsday apocalyptic event, as explained in the video below. If true, I have information to suggest that I believe that any tunnel system will be flooded. So my advice to anyone, no matter what your involvement is in this fraud, do not go into those tunnel systems. The only way out of this is through full disclosure of the truth, true repentance in any part you may have played, and a collective strategy and method to resolve this into a new Earth, which is absolutely possible with the strategies that I have in mind, because we have to know what the real problem is, which is the company's house fraud, to know exactly how to resolve it. And then I've just put a link to a video that I've previously done explaining this evidence in relation to Catherine Fitz. Now, within that video, I've mentioned that she is also linked to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, the company that I was removed from for refusing to file forged bank documents, where this all started for me. That is shown within those records. Reading on, it says, I'm in touch with those that are involved in protests regarding waste sites and planned incinerators in the UK, and it's no coincidence that the contact is being made by someone claiming to be an employee from the CERN Hadron Collider. So they've got involved and are communicating with this group that are protesting about these incinerators and the waste sites, which is now I'm in contact with that group as well. So I've now got a direct contact with CERN, and I will be sending all of the evidence to them. Now, the incinerators are incredibly important, and the reason I'm focusing on this a little bit here and tying this into the email from Inspector Mccorkell is because, and I can't go into too much detail, but a specific person is mentioned within his contact to me, okay? And I'm able to say that person is Nathan Adams. Now, Nathan Adams was a friend of mine and my wife's, okay, for the time that we were together. Now, Nathan has now, it appears, completely turned on me, and I've been sending all of the evidence to Nathan. And let's just have a quick look at the WhatsApp to confirm this. Now, this is the WhatsApp correspondence between Nathan and I was sending all of my evidence. It wasn't responding. Bearing in mind the risk is towards his family as well. All of the evidence suggests everyone is being deceived, and you can see here the 2 ticks on the right hand side, which suggests he was having them delivered, and it appears as though he's blocked me since then. So that was in January 2025. Now remember, all of my evidence is verifiable and corroborative, and yet he has decided not only to apparently block me potentially, but has provided information, which is false, by the way, that relates to, let's just say, relates to that correspondence from Inspector Mccorkell. Now, why is this important? Well, Nathan works at an incinerator plant, and that incinerator plant is at Bournemouth Hospital in Dorset, which of course is where Deborah Fleming, who initiated my removal from Exmoor Manor for refusing to file forged bank documents, was a CEO for the NHS. Okay, she covered Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset. Now, I'm just going to show the screenshots of this research because I haven't had a chance to put it into a document. But remember, Nathan works at this incinerator. He's actually the manager there, I believe, and he's told me some very interesting stories before I even knew about what was going on, including that there were suddenly bags of body parts, including heads, that he had no idea what they related to, and that they were being told to dispose of and incinerate. So let's have a look at the research regarding this recycling centre or disposal incinerator plant. And here it shows that we're looking at the Royal Bournemouth Hospital, CRCL in Bournemouth. And I've just typed in incinerator company at the hospital, so it brings up CRCL. So when we, and again here is another screenshot showing the articles, and then this is now Company's House. So we're now searching CRCL, and it comes up with this company, started in 1996. And here's the previous company names. See Southwest, clinical waste, etc. So it obviously relates to the same thing. And look when it changed its name at 26th of July 2001, the second from the bottom. Now that is a few days, in fact, that is 2 days after Larry Silverstein purchased the lease for the World Trade Center building. Okay, remember, we're seeing all of these connections in all of this. So let's have a look further into this. So on the incorporation document, you can see Clinical Waste Resources Limited was its original name. And on the significant company of control, which was active at the time of this, we had Stericycle International Limited. And look when they were notified of being the significant person of control in 2016, which is the same year as the satanic ritual took place at the Hadron Collider of CERN that we were talking about in part 1. So this is Stericycle International Limited. So when we go in through the company, we see that Toby Black, okay, is actually connected to Stericycle International Limited. And we can see he was appointed in October 2024 as I'm continuing to expose the fraud. And within Stericycle International, we can see here its original name at the bottom from 2004 for less than a month. Sorry, just over a month. Stericycle UK Limited. Then it changed its name. Well, on the incorporation document in the filing history, you will see the London Law Agency Limited, a criminal fraudulent organisation, which means this specific incinerator plant is also criminal and fraudulent and should never have been operating under that name. This is the same company, remember, that links to, if you'd seen part 1, that links to Keir Starmer and the Death Penalty Project Limited, which ties in to a satanic doomsday cult, everybody. Within the Stericycle company, you have Craig Morris, and he links to various shell company creations, which are under the Allen and Overy side of things, which feature throughout the fraud as well. They're a big part of the fraud as well. So here's various shell company creations. And then you see that he's connected to banks. Okay, now all of the banks are involved in this international conspiracy against humanity. So you have various bank companies. Then you have Bristol and Bristol Water Group. Remember, we've got a fully centralised criminal fraudulent system against humanity. And this company links immediately to the fraud, and it dissolved as I'm continuing to expose the fraud. You can see March 2023. It was incorporated in 2011. Well, that is the year that supposedly Jimmy Savile died. That all ties into this, okay, everybody, because he died 2011. You then had the Higgs boson God particle supposedly discovered in 2012 using CERN. And going into the company, you can see the previous names. Within the same director, why did I put that? Sorry. Oh, it's just to show that the name changes. So they had 2 name changes within 2011, and you can see they're changing names. This is okay. So everything is so centralized; they're literally just sharing each other's company names and chopping and changing it around to avoid accountability. So you have NatWest banks now connected to it. We've already had Barclays. And then I just thought I'd put this in the screenshot. Center Parcs is part of it. Remember, it's fully centralized. Everything now is owned by a very small number of people. And it's all completely criminal. So they actually own nothing. That's how ironic this all is. So here's just to show you a connection already to JP Morgan. We're not far away at all from that incinerator plant. And that is JP Morgan links to the Flemings and the international government fraud with JP Morgan. We've also got Corn Foods, supposedly vegetarian food. Some of you may have been following my evidence. Concerns that human remains are being put into the food chain, which will, of course, tie in with the incinerator element of things. And we also then have connections to Balfour Beatty. Now, this is so important because this goes back to 1917 and the Balfour Declaration, which is what fomented Israel to be what it is today. But I suspect it's all false information about what Israel really is. There's a lot of information suggesting that actually the United Kingdom has a far more significant scriptural connection in history than what we're led to believe. You also have Brazil Shipping Limited, bearing in mind the recent research surrounding Elon Musk links to a specific Brazilian and scripturally related organizations, including Jesus Copyright Limited. Okay, almost immediately from a record of Elon Musk. And you can see the previous names were oil related. Again, Allen and Overy. And then we have connections again back into the threat from the directed energy within the communication system. So Cable and Wireless. Cable and Wireless is actually a really big company in this, linking to BT. It also links to Pegasus, which is an Israel spyware company able to infiltrate devices. But it's actually our international governments doing this. It's not Israel. They want everyone to believe it's Israel. And this is why we're seeing what's going on at the moment in the Middle East, or supposedly, you know, that area in the Middle East where Jerusalem is and Israel supposedly is, potentially part of the deception. And that's why we're seeing these supposed bombings at the moment. Literally today, they're talking about attacks, aren't they, between Iran and Israel? Well, they're actually collaboratively working together. The evidence is clear, and I think we're going to look at it in a minute, that Fleming and Co. connects the international leaders surrounding this. We have Cable and Wireless Trademark Management that we were looking at here, and look at the address. Griffin House. Well, Griffin House is also on the CAPB Limited company. We'll also have a link to Knowsley, which had featured previously. Cable and Wireless Worldwide. Here's Cable and Wireless Worldwide. You can see it's linked to Vodafone. Vodafone House. Started in 2009. This is a key year. This is when the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales Company was created. In fact, it was also in September. It's possibly the same day, actually. I need to look back at that. And you can see it's a criminal organisation. Okay, Jordan's Unlimited, centralised to the crime. We then have connections via Cable and Wireless to Vodafone. Wimborne Investments. Now, Wimborne is where the Flemings supposedly live, the ones that initiated my removal. And it's linked to the fraud immediately. 55 Baker Street features throughout the fraud. Back into SRCL, sorry. Stephen Armstrong links to the Middle East. Bearing in mind what I've just been talking about here, the collaborative satanic deception. And this company was incorporated in 2002. Notice it has Washington FM Holdings as its previous names. And on the incorporation, Swift Incorporations and Jordan's Limited. The same companies that started Export Manor Freehold Limited and link into the international government fraud. Then you have Eurogate Freight Group. Because obviously the international child trafficking will be requiring freight transport a lot to move the children around, etc. And you can see this was incorporated in 1989. Well, that was the same year that the World Wide Web was created. And the World Wide Web was actually created by somebody working at CERN. And that person, who is Tim Berners-Lee, I believe, has multiple connections to Dorset, specifically living in Wimborne as well. And the companies that he used to work for link immediately almost to Export Manor Freehold Limited via the research. And on the incorporation document for this, it very clearly appears to be a forged document. You can see the lines behind this. This is a standard template form that should have lines boxed in, and yet where they've put this company name in over the top of an old one, it would appear they've got the lines missing. So that appears to be a forged document. And you can see here they've also forged it here. They've crossed out. Remember, it's got to be registered exactly as it is on the register. So it looks as though they've tried to go back in and change it. And yes, M&S is involved in the fraud. Okay, and the international child trafficking. They're all linking into this. All supermarkets are involved. Then you have connections to DLA Piper, which features throughout the fraud again. I won't go on, but you can see the incinerators are a massive part of this, and this ties in with this contact that I've had from Inspector Mccorkell via Nathan Adams, because that was one of the connections being made via that contact from Inspector Mccorkell. So going back to the email, the document sent to the police officer, Inspector Mccorkell, it says, the evidence that I have acquired makes significant links from the fraud to Donald Trump and Elon Musk to Export Manor Freehold Limited. This is the same company I was removed from for refusing to file forged bank documents in 2023, and that triggered this exposure. My removal was initiated by Deborah Fleming, a former NHS CEO, resigning from the NHS as my inquiries were beginning. The Fleming... I've spelled that wrong. The Fleming family link quickly to all areas of the fraud and are involved with the Rothschilds in international banking fraud, but also have significant connections to the recently resigned Archbishop of Canterbury and therefore have possible spiritual motives. And I'll just put a link to Export Manor Freehold Limited there. Elon Musk was recently given a key by Donald Trump, and through the company's house research, Musk links to families, and biblically referenced companies, including Jesus Copyright Limited, via a second director of a company called Intelligence Artificial Limited. Here's an article. I'll just have a quick look at this. Is that the video or the article? We'll look at the video because that's taken a while to load.
A little special something we have here.
Thank you.
A very special that I give to very special people. I have given it to some, but it goes to very special people, and I thought I'd give it to Elon as a presentation from our country.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elon.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
So that was a video showing the key being given to Elon Musk a few days ago, probably a week or so ago. I can't remember the exact date. This is the Company's House search for Elon Musk. So just literally searching Elon Musk in the search bar brings up all of these companies. The relevant one that we're going to be focusing on is Intelligence Artificial Limited here. And you can see here that we have a name of Marshall de Sequeira. Now, this company was incorporated in 2022. As I'm making or increasing the inquiries with an export manner freehold limited. And in fact, this is 2 months before, almost to the day, that I approached Anthony Roberts, the acting chairman, which led to all of this exposure, and he resigned. And this company actually then dissolved as I continued the... Oh, no, this one's still active, so I do apologise. And you can see here the name change. So started in May 2022. In November or end of October, Halloween party is when Elon Musk that year wore a Baphomet on his costume, which is the symbol for the Church of Satan. And also he started to acquire Twitter in this year, which became X. And that also ties in with the scriptural relevance and, shall we say, satanic doomsday element of things tying back into CERN. And this was, so he changed his name then, the company then changed its name on the 8th of May 2023, a year later, as I continued the exposure. And if you look into the people records, there's only 2 people. If it loads up. So we have Marshall de Sequeira and then the World Spiritual Responsibility Organization. So we now have a very quick connection from Elon Musk, because it was called Elon Musk Limited, into spiritually linked companies. And then when you go in through the director, Marshall de Sequeira, you have 14 companies, including Jesus Copyright Limited, Jesus Twitter Limited, President Limited, Riders Motorcycles, Rio de Janeiro. Remember, we had the connection to Brazil earlier. Brazil Limited, Intelligence Artificial, etc. So we have this spiritual connection now. That's the point we need to get across. There's scripturally related connections to Elon Musk, and therefore we have to consider that this key had more relevance. And going back to the document. So we then have, through another company with Elon Musk's name, it also links very quickly to the fraud and to the same companies connecting to my families, which is gobsmacking. Reading on, it says, "Well, attach the research document regarding this so that you can verify the information. On releasing the evidence, 2 of my TikTok channels were completely removed. One only after one of the videos had attained 50,000 views. This was whilst it was an account ban warning, and the other with no warnings at all, and it being removed almost immediately after posting. The videos are still on YouTube, but are being suppressed. Soon after the exposure, articles appeared of Trump and Musk falling out. This is very likely staged and due to the exposure to assist them moving forward. Evidence is being collated regarding Doge, in brackets, EGOD backwards, which possibly refers to the satanic artificial intelligence and electronic god. And it's linked to the forgery through Company's House. Nigel Farage is also linked to the cult and trying to implement Doge in the UK, with Donald Trump edging away as they likely know what's coming. Revelation 9:1-6 of biblical scripture makes reference to a key being given and that it will lead to the masses being made to seek death but not be able to find it. In other words, be desperate to die but not be able to. Here is the full evidence. Now remember, we've got the assisted dying bill that's being put through at the moment. And it says, I won't read all of it, but it basically says that they will bring about a situation where they won't kill people, but they will make people seek death. You can see at the bottom here. Their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it stings a man. And in those days, men will seek death and will not be able to find it. They will long to die and death flees from them. So we now have to consider that this key is triggering something that they're going to try and do to humanity to fit this scriptural verse. Research surrounding Elon Musk's mother, May Musk, with alias name of Alderman, suggests she is part of a cult and practices dark arts, as does the special advisor for the last few prime ministers, Douglas Smith, according to former Member of Parliament Nadine Dorries. He also started up fever sex parties and has been arrested for threats to kill. Reading on, recent contact with someone claiming to be a high-level occultist supports that May Musk is part of the Black Cube of Satan cult, as mentioned earlier. Remember if you've seen part 1, you'll know how relevant that is. Initial Companies House research surrounding May suggests she is linked to the Tavistock Institute, a mind control organisation established in 1947, the same year as the Doomsday Clock, a visual countdown to a man-made apocalyptic event, as well as the Association of Chief Constables, which also started in that year. The Tavistock Institute has been incorporated into the NHS, where Deborah Fleming was a CEO, and connections are being made to the Flemings and Jimmy Savile. In fact, the Flemings lived in Glencoe in Scotland, a very remote area, and so did Jimmy Savile. Linked to the Tavistock Institute, just to show about the Tavistock Institute. It's an old company, formally established in September 1947, and it links to Sage Publications. Now, the organisation Sage was also involved in the management and linked into the intervention that we were all being forced to have. You can see here it talks about applied psychology, experimental learning. And remember, we also have the MK Ultra program, which is important in relation to all of this. Now, Deborah Fleming, of course, works for the NHS, and she was the one that initiated my removal from the Companies House, from the Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. And just to confirm, the Association of Chief Police Officers, loads up, also started back in 1947-48. You can see it here. Well, that's tying in with the Doomsday Clock and everything else. Interestingly, you can see here on the left, the last ACPO president from April 2009 until its dissolution was Sir Hugh Orde. Now, 2009 is the same year as the creation of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. But there is a company that's dissolved. I think it dissolved in 2018. I haven't got it on here, but it's going to be in the evidence, which is the Chief Constables Association of the United Kingdom or something similar, and that links back into everything I'm exposing, with some of those chief officers on that company linking into the most important companies in this fraud. The Georgia Guidestones, also representing a man-made apocalyptic event and linked quickly to the Flemings, were erected in 1980 and removed as I started my inquiries with Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited in 2022. Now, 1980 is also when this person, Tim Berners-Lee, that created the World Wide Web, was working at CERN, okay, which obviously relates to the Hadron Colliders. And here's just a link to the Georgia Guidestones, just to confirm this. You can see the date there, 2022. That's when they were damaged. In fact, they were damaged the 6th of July, you can see here, according to the research, 2 days before I approached Anthony Roberts, the acting chairman for Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. Over the last few weeks, I've noticed a constant ringing in my ears and deterioration in my vision, which I suspect is the cell towers and associated technology. The eyes will likely be the first part of the body noticeably affected due to them being external fluid parts of the body. I acquired a possibly authentic leaked population report from 2017, several months ago, that suggested that the population of the world will be dramatically reduced in 2025, with the UK, for example, being reduced by 71%. 2017 is the same year as the creation of the Fleming Co. Limited Company, and research appears to connect the company via the formationscompany.com to many world leaders, including those we have recently been led to believe are at risk of conflict. These include Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the leader of Iran. The Fleming Co. Limited Company is now in the act of dissolving since being exposed, and we'll just have a quick look at it just to confirm. As you can see, active proposal to strike off, created in 2017, and that is when the depopulation report appears to have been created, because it compares the figures from 2017 to 2025. And I won't go into it, but on the filing history, you have the formationscompany.com, which then links to the research of those world leaders, and that's been shown in a document previously. I will also attach the Trump-Netanyahu document showing this research. The overwhelming evidence suggests this reduction will not be caused by the vaccines as claimed by those fighting the interventions. With all of this in mind and much more that will be shown in the full summary document soon, we have to presume that they may soon use an increase in power of the cell towers to make people suffer to the point where they will seek death but not be able to find it. This may be followed by using the assisted dying bill as the consensual way to reduce the population so they can continue their plans regarding the Hadron Colliders, which evidence suggests they may not be able to fulfill for some time based on articles from March and April this year publishing plans to build larger Hadron Colliders. And here's one of those articles. Plans unveiled for Atom Smasher, even bigger than the large Hadron Collider. You can see the date, 1st of April. As was exposing the concerns of these plans, Collider Limited, a company linked to its research, the Flemings via Begbie's trainer, and apparent references to Jeffrey Epstein dissolved on the 13th of April this year. We'll have a quick look at it just to confirm. Company's House record. Here we are. You can see Begbie's trainer within the documents and the research. That links very quickly, almost immediately, in fact, to JP Morgan and therefore the Flemings. It was started in 2003 and dissolved as I'm starting to speak about CERN and the Hadron Colliders and the threat to humanity. It dissolves. And at the bottom, you can see these three previous company names. Well, they include the word liquid and edge, as you can see. And Jeffrey Epstein founded the Edge Foundation. Okay, he founded that. That organization links very quickly to Siemens, which has also just changed its name for the first time since 1962. Okay, if you type in, I think it's called Siemens PLC. This is going to be shown anyway on the full evidential research document. And it's changed its name for the first time ever in May, after I exposed it, and it's linked to a helicopter crash on the 10th of April 2025 in America, where supposedly a CEO for Siemens passed away. But Jeffrey Epstein also was involved in a company called Liquid Funding Limited. And he, according to the research, Jeffrey Epstein had a meeting with Stephen Hawking, who was studying points of singularity, the black holes, the expansion of the universe, and wanted CERN to create a black hole in April 2012, less than 3 months before CERN created or discovered the Higgs boson particle. So there is evidence to suggest that those behind the system actually enjoy causing torture before death as part of their cult. This is most evident from the significant evidence of adrenochrome, the blood taken from tortured children, linking throughout the fraud. This is from research of companies on documents appearing to be relating to the subject and to related cases such as the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, the apparent mass murder of children on Jersey, investigated in 2007, or the Elm Guesthouse Inquiry. I've just put some articles in relation to those subjects. And when I researched the Siemens helicopter crash, very quickly it linked in to the Elm Guesthouse Inquiry and then into United Nations companies, back into the CERN Hadron Collider. And those United Nations companies, guess what? Yep, they were started with Jordan's Limited, or Jordan's and Sons, which is the same. So they're criminal organisations. Reading on, it says, I've personally witnessed signs of this interest in some people's surroundings. I won't read that bit out. We can also see that David Cameron is heavily implicated in the fraud and linked quickly to the research of the MK Ultra mind control program and to the Nazi regime via Operation Paperclip. This links to NASA, the Fleming family, Hitler and Walt Disney via Werner von Braun. Even Cameron's grandfather was openly involved in experimental torture techniques. And I've got the article of the MK Ultra, but let's have a look at the article of Mr. Cameron. This is the Wikipedia, but there are articles as well. You can see Scottish born. Remember, you've got the oldest Freemason lodge in Scotland, in Edinburgh, that's still active. And he was involved in psychological and medical torture techniques with the Central Intelligence Agency. He served as president of the American Psychiatric Association, 1952 to 1953. Canadian Psychiatric Association, and also the Biological Psychiatry. You can see in 1965, well, that's when Jordan's and Sons was created, and the World Psychiatric Association from 1961, which is important because this is when one of the key companies in the fraud, Waterloo's, was purchased by De La Rue, who is most of the world's currency producer. And until 1966, according to this, well, that is when the Church of Satan was founded. And here he is. And the research from MK Ultra links very quickly to David Cameron via Stanley Davis Group, but also it links into my family immediately, pretty much, from a Masonic lodge in Gillingham, near where I lived, where a director is actually connected to my school. And then when you go into that, there's lots of Waterman companies. It is important to understand that I believe everything that's happening is not our true Creator's will, but by the choices being made by most. Firstly, the choices by the corrupted men and women who are part of the cult with no apparent moral conscience. This is shown by the system that they have implemented, which deliberately and knowingly facilitates crimes against humanity, including international conflicts, terrorism, and the abuse, torture, and murder of children, the most innocent of all. Secondly, by those that continue to consent to facilitate the suffering of the innocents by continuing to comply to the system that facilitates it. So I advise you all, do not comply any further. Okay, I've stopped paying my insurance on my van. I've stopped paying my tax. I've stopped paying my mortgage. Everything. They still haven't seized my property because they know they can't unless they want to continue committing very serious serious crime. They threatened to steal my property. They've threatened to steal my van after I exposed the fraudulent entity company element of things. And now they haven't done that because they know they'll be committing very serious crime if they continue with that. I believe peaceful and legal non-compliance using the evidence as leverage to the right change is essential to a new earth of truth, transparency and trust, where there is a safeguarded system to prevent crimes against humanity and ensure that there is fairness and equality for all. I urge everyone to disable the cell towers as soon as possible, providing there is no likely risk of endangering others. This is completely legal in the circumstances. And then I've put a video explaining that and showing the legislation. Also showing evidence of labels on cell towers to confirm they're criminal. And in fact, link immediately back to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited and the same cult that we're talking about. I will also attach a document showing evidence taken from the cell tower overlooking Fort William in Scotland, and that shows Companies House research linking to military weapons companies and the same companies featured throughout the fraud. The previous videos explaining this have been removed. I advise people to seek professional advice, but in my opinion, the safest and easiest way to disable the cell towers is to access the power supply box through forcing or angle grinding the lock and switching off or removing any fuses. Consider making the reactivation more difficult by severing the preceding cables. Check that they are not live and covering the control panel and area in expanding insulation foam. I advise that the cabinet is secured with a new padlock and that a sign is attached to the power supply box saying something similar to exposed cables. Anyone that reactivates this tower is aiding and abetting the murder of children. I'm happy for people to put my name at the bottom. I also urge that there is mass non-compliance of the system by withholding any form of tax possible, any utility bills and insurance payments that are not contract related to a real person, such as a tenant. So with my, because I rent a property out, I've had to pay for the insurance, even though I know it's part of this, and that's because otherwise I'm breaching an actual contract with a person, with that tenant. Okay, so I can't. It's a bit of a contradicting element in all of this, but of course there's no contracts with a fraudulent criminal company, right? You can't contract legally, so that means you don't have to pay anything to any of these organisations because it's centralised criminal fraud. And there's nothing they can do legally until they safeguard this system, okay, which is very easily done. And now we know what the problem is. We know how to resolve it. It's very simple. You have a transparent financial system so that the masses are the auditors, which safeguards humanity. And any leader, then, if they know that their finances are being able to be watched by 66 million people in the United Kingdom, for example, they're not going to be misusing those finances. Reading on, it says, I ask that you all support sustained international working strikes, and I will be making attempts again to collectively arrange these, but I am very limited in my audience due to my suppression, so need to rely on those that my evidence is reaching to network the information. I must remain remote and not arrange to meet anyone so that I can continue the exposure, as I appear to be one of the only people in the world transferring the irrefutable evidence into a document form. They will struggle to control the information produced in this way. The disablement of the cell towers will reduce mobile phone coverage, but there really does seem to be no other option available, and I have stated in police reports that this is what I will be advising and will be doing so myself. All official reports are being completely ignored, and it's evident that the police, politicians and heads of all government organisations appear to be compromised by the fraud and its association to the legal and illegal sex trade, paedophilia, drug trafficking and associated addictions. None of them appear to be thinking rationally. In my opinion, no government procedure can be used to resolve this, as their procedures are part of the criminal system and they will not expose themselves to the full truth of their crimes. This appears to be down to the innocents to make the right stand for the children. A full comprehensive chronological summary of much more evidence will be publicised as soon as possible, at which time I plan to start personally disabling the cell towers. I thought it best that I do this first. There you go. Thanks very much for watching. Disable the cell towers, everybody. Okay, let's see if this police officer responds. Again, his name is Inspector Marcus Mccorkell of Dorset Police, collar number 360. Maybe you should all be emailing and contacting this individual, and copy me in on those emails, please. Let's see who's actually trying to prevent all of this. My email is GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. Here's the email for Inspector Mccorkell, Marcus.McCorkell, McCorkell, M, Mike, Charlie, Oscar, Romeo, Kilo, Echo, Lima, at dorset.pnn.police.uk. I suggest you all report all of this to your MPs, email them, copy me in. Let's see who's really innocent in those that are listening to this evidence. So copy me in, please. Again, my email is GaryTheTruthSetsUsFree@gmail.com. Everybody, email your politicians, email your local police forces, email this officer, phone up if necessary, and record those phone calls and publicise them. We must stop this. It cannot continue. It's as simple as that. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.